nuclear family that you call it, a lot of women were not happy in those families. I don't know what you're talking about. Like
Prove it.
Even in US,
Prove it.
well, you can't because there was no way to prove it. You
I
prove
can.
it to me that they were happier. You prove
Yeah,
it to
sure.
me with the data that they were happier.
What are the duties of women, and are they actually upholding their duties?
Women are the ones that are holding this whole society together.
I'd like to actually know what your prescription is to fix this problem in terms of the birth rate crisis and in terms of the demographic collapse that's happening in Western countries and the fact that they have to bring in swaths of Arabs and South Asians and everything from the third world. What actually is your solution to that?
Well, it depends what solution you want, right? Do you want a moral solution or you just want a solution? If you think birth rates are declining, then there's a lot of ways to have kids. You know, you can be making kids in a baby factory. I mean, like you can't just extinct. You can have surrogacy. You can have women that just want to have kids. You need to give women, what would I say? Because you can't work and have kids and all that. So we always have to create a safe environment. And what is that word? We have to give some kind of incentive to women to have kids. Right? You're not going to be working, then taking care of kids, and then, you know, doing all the household work and all that stuff. You can't do it. So if you are having kids, then okay, yeah, you're going to get $2,000 for per child for this amount of time. You can stay home, look after your child. You got to give some kind of incentive, right? There's no incentive for women to have kids. But like I said, you're not going to just die. If you think your civilization is just going to extinct, there's a lot of women that want to have kids, pay them the money, and your race isn't going to die. There's a lot of ways to do that.
Okay. So baby factories, first of all, we can create some sort of like forced baby factories. That sounds very feminist. And you also said that they can't just work and have their children. They can't just work and have children. Yeah, no shit. That's what we're saying. They can't be in the workforce and being expected to be mothers at the same time. So if you have this worldview where you want women to be in the workforce and women to be, you know, closing the pay gap, whatever that is, then you actually can't solve the problem. So you haven't given any sort of accurate solutions to this problem whatsoever. You basically just said a bunch of things that were kind of incoherent, if I'm totally honest. You didn't give any actual prescriptions, or you didn't give any accurate solutions to this whatsoever. And also, in terms of these incentives that you're talking about, they exist everywhere. Go look at the Nordic countries. Look at the Scandinavian countries. They have all different kinds of incentives. Look at what they're doing in Japan and South Korea and places like this. They don't work. So tell me, what is your actual solution?
Well, see, you're asking me because I don't see it as a problem. And you will ask this to a lot of women, they don't really think the birth rate is declining a huge problem, right? It's a men's problem that the birth rate is declining. So you guys need that solution, right? So for me, it's not a problem. And I am a single mother. I work, I take care of my child, I do everything. It ain't easy, but women are doing it, right? Like, and that's what I'm saying. Even if you're giving them incentives, women are like, no, we don't want to have kids, because we have learned from the past that most of the responsibility of the child, physical, mental, everything just lands on us. And, you know, it's too much work and we just don't want to do all that work, right? So the problem is with you guys. Like I told you, I gave you that option. You can go ahead and make babies in a factory, right? Most of the guys are having babies and leaving them anyways, you know? So, okay, so I know that you have a problem with this whole birth rate and stuff. Now, and you don't want women to have abortion. So let me just give you a scenario. A woman chooses to keep that child, right? But the man is not with her. Now she's a single mother, right? You're going to come and criticize her still now because she's a single mother, but she chose to keep that kid. Do you still think she did the right decision, or she's going to be frowned upon now because she's a single mother?
Yeah, I'm happy to get into that just after we address what you just said about the fact that you don't think that the declining birth rates are a problem, because essentially what you've just said is you don't care about the human race going extinct. You don't care about the very culture that you moved to in Canada, about Canadians actually eventually getting bred out of existence. The very culture that you've come to, and you've begged them to be a part of their system, and you've begged them to look after you escaped Pakistan. Now Pakistan is going to come into Canada, is going to replace your demographics. The birth rates don't really matter to you. It's a man's problem. But the Pakistanis are going to come in and they're going to actually enslave your grandchildren. If your daughter has children, her children are going to live in Pakistan, in Canadistan, whatever you want to call it. So how is that not your problem?
If you're talking about Pakistan and them coming and replacing, I don't think that is a possibility. But like I gave you an example, you don't have to go out of extinction. If worse comes to worse, you guys can have baby factories. There's tons of women. Believe me, there's tons of women out there that want to have kids. Tons of them. You guys can mass produce babies. Believe me. Okay. I'm telling you, if you put out an ad tomorrow, okay, that we want to just reproduce white genes. We're looking for blonde women with blue eyes, and we're going to give you each kid that you pop out 10 grand. You're not going to get extinct. Human race is not extincting because we can see the population in China, India, Pakistan, Africa. Human race ain't going nowhere. No, not for a while. It's not, right? So I don't know why you're so worried about it. I think the population has just been increasing and increasing and increasing. So I don't know how you say that human race is going extinct. And again, we are not coming here and taking over. My child is a Canadian. She doesn't even know anything about Pakistan. She doesn't know anything about the culture. She doesn't know anything about the religion. And I'm not here trying to say, oh, I'm going to replace you. No, you have options. You guys can go and do other things. You can save yourself.
Okay, so all you have to do is take a rudimentary look at the data around the world and all of the different Western countries in Australia, America, Canada, United Kingdom, all of Western Europe, these places. Birth rates plummeting, okay? Birth rates are plummeting in these different places, and also in Eastern Asian countries, in China, like you just mentioned as well, birth rates are plummeting, Japan, South Korea. But the places that are getting more and more people is Pakistan, or Pakistan, as you say, or India, or Africa, or the Middle East, these different places. They're getting more and more people because they breed a lot. So if you are having a demographic crisis in the Western nations, which is happening, the native Western populations are having a demographic crisis, the way in which they're remedying that because of this democracy that you love so much, because they only want short-term fixes for long-term solutions, they're bringing in lots of immigrants. Justin Trudeau is the worst culprit for this, maybe in the entire world, along with the British. They're bringing in all of these different immigrants, and these immigrants are from places that don't exactly hold your feminist values. So I still actually don't know what your solution to this is. You might say, yeah, it's not my problem, it's a man's problem. Well, it's going to be your problem because, yeah, Canada is not going to go completely extinct, but the Canadian population and the Canadian ideals as you know them will go extinct. That's going to happen. So is your solution, from what I've heard, your solution is A, baby factories, or B, become Pakistan and it's not my problem. What's your solution? I'd love to know.
Oh, you're just putting words in my mouth that I want everybody to become Pakistan. I have no roots from Pakistan. I am the biggest critic of Pakistan and the religion up there. So I don't even know where you're getting all that from. Like I said, you mentioned Pakistan, you mentioned India. Even if you go in Pakistan, it's declining. The birth rate everywhere where women are getting educated, the birth rate has declined. Besides from Africa, where women are not educated and they still suffer. So I know you're talking about men breeding. So now in Islam, you can have 4 wives. So now 4 wives plus 4 kids, of course they're going to outbreed you. That is how it is. What needs to be happening that we don't want that system in Canada? Why do we have 4 wives in Canada and them breeding? So it's not my fault that the government is not keeping checks and balances. They should be doing that. And it wasn't just Justin Trudeau. This whole thing was started by his father long time ago, okay? And when Britishers also brought in all these immigrants with them, it was for their own benefit. Remember, they were ruling over the Indians for the longest time, right? So they brought them as their slaves at that time, but they didn't think that these immigrants are actually going to get education and they're actually going to contribute into the society. A lot of immigrants that were brought into Canada and US is full of immigrants, like all over the place. So you can't say that only Pakistanis, even some Pakistanis have contributed too. A lot of Indians in US, you see, have good jobs and they have contributed a lot towards the society. So you can't just paint all that over and over. You keep saying that I want to make this Pakistan. If I wanted to make this Pakistan, I would have stayed there. I enjoy the country this is, and I will fight till my last breath to keep it the way it is.
Okay, India was a good colony. That is true. But first of all, 3.6 births per woman is the Pakistani birth rate. So it's like at least double most of the Western countries. Yes, it is going down, but it is still 3.6. But I want to just highlight for everybody, I want to give a brief summary of what has just been said here. She is trying to argue the case that feminism does good for society. I'm trying to argue the case that feminism does bad for society. I am saying that we are having a major demographic problem and that I actually care about the ideals of the country that I live in, Australia, and plus of the other Western countries. These are countries that come from a history of different Greek philosophy and art and Roman governance and law and Christian ethics and morality. These are great societies. They're not like other places, okay? They're not like other places. I would like to keep these societies great. She has said the demographic collapse, the birth rate problem is not a problem, okay? I'm saying that that is a problem. She is saying that the solution to the problem is baby factories, or it's just like, yeah, we'll try and throw some government money at it. Doesn't work, by the way, and I'm being charitable here. Or she's saying, well, eventually it just sort of becomes Pakistan and doesn't really matter because it's not my problem. That's essentially what she's saying. She's essentially a nihilist. She's saying that she doesn't care about these problems. She doesn't care about the eventual conclusion of these problems. She doesn't care about the logical conclusion of these problems. I'm saying that I do. So audience, please tell me, I would love to know, what is feminism, this ideology here, is that harmful for society or is that good for society? Because for me, it sounds like she's saying that she doesn't care if society goes extinct.
No, I never said that the society goes extinct. I like the system that I live in. I came here and I will defend it. Okay. And stop saying that I want to turn it into Pakistan, because I do want to turn it into Pakistan. I've said it over and over again. I don't know, maybe it doesn't process in your brain. You have to see, the thing is, the easiest thing men can do, they can't poop. Oh, feminism. Oh, I couldn't eat. Feminism. Everything is a problem of feminism. The birth rate's not only declining because of feminism. There's a lot of factors that go into the declining birth rate. Maybe men should do a little better, right? But men don't want to change. Men don't want to change anything about themselves. They just want to blame women because they see women having some human rights. How dare we have human rights now, right? So I'm not saying that I don't care your thing is going to die or you're going to extinct. We're not going to, human species are not going anywhere for a while, okay? If you're talking about the whole world. And I already gave you a solution. Yeah, it depends. If you want that whole family structure and all that, you have to ask yourself the question, why the women are not having kids? It's not only because of feminism, it's because of you men not stepping up to the plate. And we've experienced it in the past, and we don't want to go through that. Even if you ask older women from back in the days, and they will tell you, don't have kids. Don't ruin your lives. Focus on your future. Why do these older women from back in the days where you say that women were very happy, give us these advices, you know? Mm-hmm. So you guys have to step up the plate. Don't blame everything on feminism.
You are absolutely right. I could not agree with you more. All of these women are giving advice to these younger women to not have kids. Thank you very much. I do appreciate you substantiating my point of view there, because we don't have any matrons in society. We don't have any women with the wisdom and the discernment to tell younger women, listen, I know that you're pretty right now. You have some nice boobs. You have a nice bum, okay? But you can't use that sexual prowess to just get everything you want, all of your material expedient desires. You can't use it for that. You actually have to use it in pursuit of something greater. We don't have those matrons in society anymore. What we now have is a bunch of women that were the product of the sexual revolution telling women, do what you want all the time with no consequences. Don't worry about a family. Don't worry about a legacy, anything like that. Now, I also never said, Mahalij, that it was just feminism. But what we are arguing about is feminism. If we were arguing about if men need to step up, then we could have that conversation. But what we're arguing about is, in fact, feminism. So feminism is the idea of dismantling patriarchal structures. All of the most famous feminists throughout history have always said that the family is inherently oppressive in and of itself. And in order for women to be properly liberated, they need to be liberated from the shackles of their loving family, from the shackles of their adoring children and their providing husbands, okay? That's what feminism has always been about. So that is destroying the nuclear family in one way. Now, there are other things in terms of the birth rates. You could say that urbanization is another big contributor. The fact that we're living in smaller places, life is becoming a little bit more expensive. Sure, but that's not what we're arguing. What we're arguing about is if feminism is harmful or if it's doing good. Now, your ultimate argument here is essentially can be summarized in 3 words. I don't care. That's ultimately what your argument is. I don't care. Because all of these problems that are happening, you're saying, I don't care. I would rather that women are having the dopamine receptors in their brain firing rather than there being any sort of continuity of civilization. That's essentially your argument.
No, that's not my argument. My argument, and it's not like I don't care. I care. I care for human beings. And as a human being and as a woman, I want the same rights that a man has. And you don't want that, right? If a woman chooses, feminism is all about choice. If a woman chooses to have kids and have a family, nobody is stopping her from doing it. But there are consequences to that, right? And we've seen in the past what happens. Our grandmothers, our mothers, they raised a bunch of kids. You know, I still know the system that you want. I have seen it in Pakistan. Women are still suffering. They can't get a divorce. They can't. So they're stuck in abusive marriages. They're stuck in such bad marriages and they can't get out. And that's exactly how we were here too. So like I said, you keep blaming the birth rates on feminism, but it's not that. It's the women. I'm not the only one saying this. It's the women that don't care. You keep telling about, what is it, South Korea, that the women have started this, the new movement where they're like, we don't want to have your kids. We don't want to get married. You want to extinct, you can extinct. So it's basically all women saying that we don't care. You want to reproduce? Go reproduce, right? But we're not going to reproduce anymore because we saw what we got from reproducing. The absent fathers, the violence against women, you couldn't get a divorce, like all these things. So there is a little, a lot of factors to it, but you just keep coming to one point over and over again.
I love this. I love this. It's amazing, honestly. So you're saying that, so even if this is the 3B movement that you're talking about in South Korea. It's a social movement. It's not as big as people make it out to be. But even if that is the case, you are telling me that it's a bunch of women who have gotten together and said, I got all this freedom. I'm going to stop having children. Okay. We're just going to stop having children because we got all this freedom. So, I mean, talk about an argument to put the shackles on a little bit more. Talk about an argument to tighten the reins a little bit. That's a great argument to tighten the reins a little bit. And I'm actually not finished. So we'll keep going. But this argument about the 3B movement in South Korea, you're just making my point that women make terrible decisions. What were the other arguments you said? I actually forgot because I was so entertained by that one. What were the other things that you said there? I need to address them.
Hang on. For you, it's a bad decision. For men, it's a problem. For women, they think it's not.
I think he's asking what other points, because he'd like to address some of the other ones that he had forgotten, which you had said.
Yeah, I forgot one point also that he was talking about. So in Jake's mind, a woman is only sexual.
Hold on. I think he's saying that, like, he's asking what was, so basically, like, he gave you approximately like 90 seconds. And so he's trying to remember. I
had basically just said that, this is women are choosing now that we don't want to have kids because we've seen what happens, when our grandparents or our grandmothers, we saw what happened. So they're just choosing not to have kids anymore because we don't want to put up with that.
Gotcha.
And like I said, that might not be a big movement yet, but believe me,
I want to give Jake the remainder of his 90 seconds.
Look, I have no doubt that the propaganda is going to keep on spreading. I mean, you saw what happened. I mean, you had great thriving civilizations where the nuclear families were all intact and where great civilizations were built, the whole entire Western world. In fact, this Western world that you've migrated to, and you have come in begging them to protect you from Pakistan. You've come into this country and you've said, you know what? We don't want to have kids because we've seen what has happened. What has happened is this amazing society, this once amazing society that you have now come and migrated to, and you're begging them to protect you. That's what happened. But if you want to dismantle it, then sure, talk about being ungrateful. But I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that women will do this if given the decisions, but also it just goes to show that they're kind of malleable at the end of the day. Women are very impressionable. So if they're going to be given all this feminist propaganda, which is exactly what you're talking about here, about how it's bad to have a family and about how your husband's just going to beat you up and leave you chained to the oven, this was never the case, ever. So they're just eating up a whole entire propaganda narrative that is just not the case. The most safe place that a woman can be is in a nuclear family environment.
Romali?
60% of cases where a woman is found dead is either her husband, her father, or her brother. So it's only 40% of strange men that we have to need protection from. And you keep saying, protect me from this and that. The asylum program, the refugee program that Canada offered me, I came here. And since I came here, I have contributed into the system. I pay taxes, which pays the police, who protect me. I don't need a man to protect me here, because there's a lot of times men can protect themselves. They have to also call police, right? That comes to protect them. So I don't know why you keep saying that I come here and I beg. I love Canada. I love the opportunity that they gave me, and I'll forever be grateful. But for you to keep pushing that on my face, trying to get people all this propaganda, like you say. And we're very impressionable. Yes, because women can't think for themselves. We have to be told, right? Our personal experiences, our friends' experiences, all this doesn't matter. For you to say the safest place for a woman to be is at home, maybe you should see the stats. 60% of men that have killed their wives. We are actually not safer at home, right? So you're saying like we weren't tied up to the home and to the kitchen, to all that. That's what you want. You want us at home. You don't want us working. You want us at home, raising kids, cooking food. That's what you want. And women are saying, we don't want to do that. If that's what you want, we don't want to do it. And it's not only me saying this, actually, if you were to put it that way, my country is still having babies. It's the white women and other women in other countries that are like, no, we're not going to do it. Same thing. Even in blacks, they don't want to have kids. They were having kids more, but even their reproduction has gone down. Asians, their reproduction has gone down. I told you, wherever women get educated, the reproduction goes down.
Yes, you're exactly right. Wherever women get educated, the reproduction goes down. Therefore, we should be incentivizing women to not go into higher education and to focus on family. So therefore, the reproduction won't go down, and eventually this culture that you've come on your hands and knees begging to be a part of won't go extinct and become Pakistan, which is the entailment of your worldview. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Also, researchers have consistently shown over the years that rates of violence in cohabiting compared with marital relationships is always much higher. So marital relationships is always much lower in terms of the abuse statistics. So the safest place that a woman can be is not in a single mother household. It's not in a boss babe single life coming home from work at 11 p.m. walking through the city. It is with a husband and her biological children. That's the safest place that a woman can be. But I just don't understand how you even get past this. You are arguing for women to be in higher education and to be in the workforce. You just admitted that everywhere you go where women are in higher education, birth rates go down. Birth rates go down, population get replaced. Population get replaced, Pakistan. Please square that circle for me.
First of all, there's maybe like, I don't even know, maybe I have to check how many Pakistanis have come in Canada. If anything, it would be taken over by Indians or Chinese before Pakistanis take over. So again, you saying that I want to turn this place into Pakistan, again, no, you want to turn it into Pakistan because the men in Pakistan say the same thing that you're saying. Women should not get educated because God forbid, women gets educated, she's going to know about her body. She's going to know about her rights. They don't want that. They want women in the kitchen having babies. That's what they do. Our right-wingers in Pakistan, the Islamists, they give us examples of you guys, the right-wingers, because you guys are aligned on the same page. And I'm not going to turn Canada into that, but some right-wingers here that are very conservative want women to go backwards like we were in Pakistan. I don't care if it's Pakistanis, if it's you, or if it's another Asian that wants this. Yes, education is very important. You know why? Because when you get married at 25 and 10 years later, that man finds somebody younger and leaves you, guess where you are? Guess where you're left with nothing, with the kids, with no education, and God forbid you go on OnlyFans and do something, then you're also labeled as a single mother and a prostitute. No one's going to question that man, right? So you need that education to lie upon so you can support your own self.
I completely agree. Men should not just be able to leave women. Men should have a responsibility, and this is the way that it used to be, back when men could go to prison for leaving their children and leaving their family and not taking care of them. But this also meant that women were more dependent on their husbands. So this actually, I completely agree with you, but I think that we just view this in a different lens completely. And also, I think we established at the start of this that Pakistanis are majority inbred. So I don't want to be compared with a country that is majority inbred, okay? All sorts of different problems going on there. I don't want women to wear burqas. I don't want to stone a woman to death if she gets R-worded, okay? I don't want any of these things to happen. So please, Pakistan, inbred, stoning Fatima to death, different to what we want over here. So it's like apples and oranges.
See, again, I am totally against the inbreeding, but let's not even talk about it because I can talk about the Latter-day Saints and then other Christian people that were found here inbreeding in their own kids. You know, what is that here? Those people, that's Amish people. You should see how many inbreeding goes on in there. Let's not talk about the southern states in US. So much inbreeding goes on there, which I'm totally against, and from Pakistan too, right? I'm not comparing you as I'm talking about your ideologies and what you want to restrict women of. They don't want women education, and that's why a huge number of women don't get educated in Pakistan, and I'm totally against it. You know why? Because women need to support themselves. I already gave you that example. You know, that men do leave, they walk out, and they get nothing in return. So it is very important for a woman to have at least decent education so she can support herself if that scenario arises. But that's what the whole thing is. The feminism that I believe in gives you the choice. If you want to get married, you can get married. However, Jake earlier said that when you're 25 and your boobs are perked up, that's the only value us women have. And we're like more sexual. So we better use it at that time, because God forbid we expire after 25 or 30 and we're single. No man wants us then, because all these 40-year-old men want 18 and 20-year-olds, right? Yeah, in Pakistan, they want 9-year-olds, by the way. So, which I'm totally against.
Another reason to not compare us to Pakistan and to
no, but you don't want women to go to school, right? You don't want women to go to school.
When did I say I don't want women to go to school?
You say you don't want women having higher education because it's a problem.
No, I said that I think that women should be disincentivized from going into higher education, but you just conflated and said that I don't want women to go to school. I think.
But why do you not want them in higher education?
Women always were educated in America, for example. Women always were educated, and in many studies and statistics, it shows that women were more educated than men. They had better high school education rates than men. So that's just a delusion. That never happened. This is not Pakistan. No one's trying to marry a 9-year-old. That doesn't happen over here. So anyways, but in terms of the voting, though, I actually want you to tell me why your system is better, because in my system, there would be age restrictions on voting. There would be civics tests with voting. You would have to be a net contributor to society and not just taking from society. And you would have to be actually having skin in the game in terms of property, for example. If you want to vote on property matters, then you should own property. So tell me why your system of universal suffrage is actually better than my system.
Well, no, I actually agree on a lot of things with you. However, I think everybody at, there should be an age restriction. Maybe you're 18. I think that's just perfect the way it is. Property we're talking about is, so more single women own property now than men. So we should get a right to vote. I myself own a property, and I think it's important for me to vote because I'm a part of the system. I got to figure out if my roads are done, if my sewer is working or not, So I have to be part of that voting system. However, I've also heard these men in US, in Canada, saying that women shouldn't vote at all. I totally disagree with that. We are hugely contributing into the economy, and we should have our right to vote.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't believe in a gendered voting system. I believe that you have to have skin in the game. So you have to, I think the ideal would be one family, one vote. So if you have a family, the man votes because the man is the head of the household. But then there are other constrictions as well. And this is generally speaking in the US, for example, they've got the different states. The different states had different voting laws. But you had things like if you had property, if you're a property owner, you could be able to vote, etc. But I want you to actually tell me what your voting system, because it sounds like you're in favor of universal suffrage. So why is your system better?
What do you mean my system? I'm happy with the Canadian system the way it is. I don't want anything to be changed here.
I know that, and I'm saying why is it better?
Voting age is 18, and that's it. I think it's already working perfectly. Yeah, and that's a democratic way. I'm all for it. I don't want to change it. You want to change it. You want to say, oh, men is the head of the household. A lot of times they're not, they're not even making that much money. Women are now making a lot of money. A lot of women are the breadwinners. They should make the decision. Anybody that is spending more money and contributing towards a society, I think should be then. So if a woman is making more than the man, then she should be the one going and voting.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question again. I'm saying why, because I hope you understand that your system in terms of universal suffrage, the system that you support, and the Canadian system, for example, that's been around for all of 5 minutes. That's very new, actually. So tell me, why is your system better than my system?
I don't know. What are you talking about? My system? Canadian system is different than Australian system?
The system
Sorry?
that you just advocated for.
Yeah, it's not different. Like
So
you
you
said
want
that
universal
you want,
suffrage?
no, you wanted the voting system, only the man can vote, and certain people should be able to vote. Certain people that are, I guess, not contributing to the society shouldn't be able to vote and stuff. Whereas I say it should be the age restriction. Yes, you can, in a way where I would put a stop to it. If you're a newcomer here and you don't know anything about the government and stuff, I don't think you should be able to vote, which I'm against it. But if you're a Canadian citizen and you've been here contributing to the society, even if you are on welfare, you should have a say.
Okay. So why is yours better than mine is the question.
I don't know. Tell me, what is your system?
I just told you that there would be all different kinds of restrictions on voting. I don't believe in universal suffrage, that somebody turns 18, some retard who goes for sushi with their friends and who has blue hair and who eats tofu. I don't understand why these people have to be voting at 18 years old when they're talking about dismantling the patriarchy and overthrowing capitalism with their blue-haired Marxist friends in their university halls. I don't understand why those people vote. That doesn't make any sense to me. So age, civics tests, being a net contributor, property matters, and then you've also got family as well. That could be another one where you have one vote, one family. People who actually have skin in the game.
That system before?
Yeah, you did have a lot of those systems.
How did that work out?
It was fantastic.
According to who?
I mean, so back, just for example, you go back into the history of different Western countries, and by the way, there was no universal suffrage really, like until the 1920s for a lot of these countries, but there wasn't too much difference between men and women. In the US, it was maybe a little bit more, but they had different states who came in at different times. But in older times in the United States, you had more intact nuclear families, you had higher birth rates, and these are just two of the key markers in terms of a healthy society. Intact nuclear families and intact birth rates where your society is actually propagating. Society used to be a lot better.
That's according to you, right? There's no data.
Well, it's not according to Alfred over here. It's according to me because I'm in the debate. Yes.
Okay, yes, according to you. For you, families or nuclear family that you call it, a lot of women were not happy in those families. I don't know what you're talking about. Like
prove it.
Even in US.
Prove it.
Well, you can't because there was no way to prove it. You prove it to me that they were happier. You prove it to me with data that they were happier. The women were happier.
Sure. Okay. Women are more heavily medicated today than they ever have been. And generally speaking, the most heavily medicated women are women who are 30s, 40s, 50s with no family, no husband.
Men are also committing more suicides. There's a lot of factors that depend on medication. Before, we didn't even have a lot of symptoms that women have, and even in general, and men have. We didn't even diagnose those back in the days, right? Now we actually have a diagnosis. Women also go through a lot of stress. Women also go through PTSD. We go through a lot of emotions, right? So it's not only that we're just getting heavily, it's not only to the feminists. We are working more. It's getting expensive. There's inflation. There's a lot of contributions to that. Men are also committing a lot more suicides. Why are men dropping dead? Especially the single ones, right?
I love it. You're like an advocate for my positions.
Tell me, why is that? Why is feminism to blame for that? You can't give me a data that says the women back in the 50s or 20s, 1920s were way happier than they are now. Just because they weren't taking medication. You know what they were doing? They were probably sniffing coke. You didn't even know. They were heavily drinking. That's what they were smoking cigarettes, remember? Everywhere. So,
I know, I get it. I get it. No, look, I understand you've watched Thelma and Louise. I get it. You've watched some of the Thelma and Louise movies, and this is where you get your sort of idea of what it looked like back then.
Actually, I don't even know what that is. Actually, I don't even know what that show is.
I get it. You've watched the movies, and this is where you got this from. But yeah, so you just said that men are killing themselves at a much higher rate. Well, I would actually argue that one of the things that creates this sort of ideation in men is having a lack of meaning and having a lack of purpose in life. And generally speaking, where men are going to get meaning and purpose from is from, and it might sound funny to you, I'm not sure why it's funny to you, but where men are going to get meaning and purpose from is having a family and having people to provide for and having people to actually support. So the lack of the nuclear family, I would actually say, and the lack of purpose and the lack of actual sort of vision that a man can have for his life, and the lack of structure that we have these days actually is a contributor to that. And men are much more lonely these days, I would say. So there's that. And also, it's just a fact that women are much more heavily medicated these days. I mean, they're the most medicated people in the world, these women who are childless. So, like, why is that?
I don't know. There's a lot of contributions to that. I don't know. You'll have to show me the data. I know a lot of women that don't have kids and have kids, and they're not on any kind of medication. Like I said, we do have a lot of hormone issues. You know, you don't know what's going on in somebody's body or whatever is going on. Secondly, like, again, I'm going to tell you, a lot of these things people had before too, but they were not diagnosed. There was no diagnosis. There was no medication for it. So now that's why you see it, more people having it, right? Same, like, I'm going to say the same thing again for the men they're killing. And yes, men are lonely. I was laughing because you're like, men need a purpose. Do you know how many men out there are still going around? They don't want purpose. They're all judging women. Oh, you do this. Oh, we don't want this. So, you know, beggars can't be choosers. Women choose, and you get, if you want that purpose, then act like it, right? Women can't find good partners because men don't want to contribute anymore. They want to be, actually, they want to be the females. All the men I come across, they want to be the females.
This is a point that we can actually chew on.
You can blame this on men because they're not finding purpose. Like, what should we do?
Look, this is actually something that we could come to some sort of a mild agreement with. I think that we can actually have something to nibble on here, okay? You and I, together at a nice restaurant, okay? Listen, so you're saying that all of these societal contributors, all of these different factors mean that women would love to find a good partner, and they would love to be provided for, and they would love to be protected, but these factors here, well, women are sort of pulling away. But then you're saying men don't want this. They don't want the purpose, right? All of these societal contributions and these societal factors here, they're all there. But the reason why men aren't leaning in is because, well, they don't want it. But women would love to have it. But it's the societal factors. Don't you think men would also like to have this if women weren't trading around like hoes on the internet all day, and if they were actually marriage material? Don't you think that men would also lean into it if those societal factors were different?
I think men have a double standard, right? Men have double standards. They want all these hoes online because who makes them hoes? First of all, it's all the men watching them. It's not the women going around watching them. They want all these hoes, but they want them only for one night stand, right? They only want to, bang them and just move away and walk away. And then they're going to look for and define a hoe. Because I don't know. I see some women that posted in a dress and men are calling her a prostitute and attention seeker and this and that. So if you're going to go that way, then yes, women are going to, take back. You have to understand, like, I had this guy the other day and he was like, women have too many standards. Like, they want this, they want gifts, they want this, they want that. And I'm like, why are you shopping for a Ferrari when you can only afford a Honda? I know of tons of women that are poor that would love to marry you. Okay, this was a Pakistani guy. And I'm like, but do you go in those slums looking for those girls? No, you don't go looking for those girls. You go looking for the girls that are high maintenance, that are out of your reach. Go for the ones that are there. Women are there, but men are still manipulating women. Like the same things that I keep hearing from women over and over again. Men are still not serious. They're not serious. They're not. You keep saying it. Where are these serious men? They're cheating. The biggest thing we saw was those two couples cheating. Look at that CEO. He was still cheating. And I mean, both of them, I would say, are rotten human beings for cheating. Both of them, men and that woman. But no, men have to step up. They really do.
Okay. It's interesting because when I look at this, and you can tell me how you feel about this, but when I look at the different duties of men and women in society, I think that they actually do have separate duties, men and women. And just for the men, for example, our duty is to protect and uphold society. So we're in charge of procuring resources. We're in charge of building things. We're in charge of distributing resources. And we're also in charge of protecting the nation. If you look at the nations that we exist in, Canada, United States, Australia, they're largely pretty safe nations. And that's because the men are doing their duty in protecting the nation. If you look at all the infrastructure, if you just go to your toilet and you press the button, it doesn't just go push-oo and just sort of disappear into thin air. There's like a whole plumbing system that's going to be built by men. And then under the roads, there's going to be sewage systems, and there's going to be sort of different, all of these different pieces of infrastructure that keep the society going as you know it. You click the button on the remote and your air conditioning comes on and you're not hot anymore. These sorts of things. So all of these are actually the duties of men to uphold society. What are the duties of women, and are they actually upholding their duties?
women are the ones that are holding this whole society together. We are taking care of your kids. Men don't take care of their kids. You guys don't take care of, you're out there working. Women are now working and taking care of the kids, right? So if we stop taking care of the kids, you're already screaming because we're not having kids. But yes, this is why we're not having kids, because all the burden, we're the only parent. Even if you're married, you're the only parent that has to do everything, cook, clean, child appointments, everything. The father just comes at the end of the day, oh, hi, how was your day? And this, and that's it. That's the fatherly duty that he has to do. So do you understand where all this is coming from? I hope that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just with that, we can go there if you'd like. I mean, so essentially what you're saying is that it is actually an affront to women to have to work and be able and be a parent at the same time. So to do all the parent duties and to have to work a full-time job, that's too much for women to actually take on board. And you feel like they're overburdened.
It can be, but it's not that it's not manageable. I manage as a single mother, actually.
But it's not ideal.
But it might not be ideal, but life's not ideal, right? You get married and your husband dies. Like a lot of these men used to go, you were just talking about, to the war, and they died. Then what? The woman had to survive on her own, right?
Let me just paint you a little hypothetical, okay?
Yeah.
Just say there was a mystical fairyland out there where, generally speaking, women weren't going into higher education. They were focusing more on purely family duties, and they weren't having sex outside of marriage, and they were waiting until marriage. So therefore, all of these gross, disgusting men that you're speaking about couldn't go and get the milk for free. They had to buy the whole cow. So then what they did was they waited until marriage, they got married, and then the man would provide, and the woman would stay home and do the domestic duties, and she would also have time to paint pictures and draw things and plant some things in the flower bed or whatever else she wanted to do. Maybe she wanted to have a business that was operating at a loss. Who knows? But say in this mystical fairyland that existed and the women weren't overburdened with working and they actually had a reliable partner, do you think that would be something that would be positive?
No, see, you're not understanding. It's about the choice. If a woman wants to do that, have somebody there to provide for her, that's fine. But women, I know in a lot of cases, they will take the harder road. They'll be like, we'll work, we'll take care of our kids, but we don't want to deal with this toxicity. We don't want to deal with this abuse, the violence. We will do hard work, but we will be at peace with it. You know, do you understand?
So they'd rather be single mothers.
Yeah, they can be single mothers. Why not?
Rather.
Why can't they be single mothers?
No, I'm saying so they would rather be single mothers.
Yeah, if you're getting abused every day and beaten and you might get killed one day.
So that's the norm, you're saying? That's the norm, you're saying? You're saying the normal experience.
60% of domestic violence is by men and they're married.
No, I'm saying this is the normal experience. So you're saying that you're more likely, if you're getting married, you're actually better off being a single mom, because if you go and get married to a man, you're likely to get killed.
You probably are. Yeah,
Whoa.
You probably are likely to get killed. And not only that, you have to do the labor. It's like, honestly speaking, I know what the problem is. The problem is that women are in 2025, whereas men refuse to come to 2025. They still want to live in the 1920s. They do, right? They don't want to move forward. So we're not your mommies anymore. We're not going to cook and clean and do all that. Even if I'm staying home, the fact that you were like, oh, you can paint this and that. No, things have to get done at the house. You don't have time to go around and paint. And then second, he was like, a business that's probably failing. Why? Do you know how many women entrepreneurs are there that have successful businesses? But the fact that you think as women, we're always going to fail, right? That's just your mindset, because you always think women are less than you. Okay, the infrastructure that you talked about, yes, I will give it to you, that men had created all those things. Sorry, one last point. Created all those things, and I totally get it, because they were the only one getting education. If women were getting educated, now you can see women are in all kinds of different professions out there. Third, lastly, I want to say you keep bringing this protection. Who do I need protection from? Men.
On the last point, you did mention on the last point that was your last point. So before we get to the last point, I just want to give Jake a chance to respond as well.
Well, I mean, I just find this, and I want everybody who's listening to really take a note of what you're hearing right now. And I know that a lot of you guys would have actually, you would have internalized this by now, but what she's arguing for is a single mother society here. She's arguing for the destruction of the nuclear family. She's arguing for the dismantling of the nuclear family. She's gone and watched Thelma and Louise, and she's watched some old Hollywood movies about the wives popping Valiums and sniffing and smoking cigarettes and being miserable, the feminist propaganda. And she's now saying that you're better off as a woman to be a single mother. We know that if kids are single mothers, they're much more likely to be criminals. They're much more likely to live in poverty. It's a much more dangerous society. Single mother households, the kids are much more likely to be abused by the partners that come in. But that's all okay. And the reason why that is all okay is because she watched Thelma and Louise, and she thinks that women are more likely to get abused than not, and that is the best thing because women should be terrified of men because men are evil. Just to let everybody know, that's what's happening in this debate.
I think it's just because men now go on podcasts and everybody's listening to podcasts. So they think that any woman that's going to come here is just like by propaganda, only watches things on feminism and this and this. It's not propaganda. It's my lived experience. Believe me, I came from that place where I was not able to breathe, right? So when I come here and I hear from men that no, you shouldn't be wearing this. You should be wearing this, because that makes you look like a slut and a prostitute. And you're going to be called as such, right? God forbid you go have an unprotected sex or out of the bed, and you're going to be shamed. You're a prostitute. Men can do it. That is fine. Men have always done it. Even before, when they were in marriages, they were still going outside and having sex with other women. Men have always done it. So I don't know why you keep saying that I don't know. You just keep pushing words in my mouth and just telling your audience, oh, look at this. And I have no propaganda. You're the one doing the propaganda to the audience right there, telling them, oh, look, she wants a single mother. I never said that I want a single motherhood, but I want an alive mother. I don't want a dead mother. I want those kids to have a mother. Okay. And the trauma, he wants a woman to stay in a relationship where the guy is physically abusive, mentally abusive. A lot of you men are coming there with your childhood mommy issues. And we're not your mommies. We're not. We have kids. We're their mommies, right? Then again, him and another person that had told me that, there's always a risk from men that will come and sexually abuse the kids. And another person that Andrew, that was telling me, he's a step parent himself. Not all men do that, but it is the men that do it. Again, it's your gender that is a problem. There you go. You admitted with me. So I'm not advocating for a single motherhood, but I am saying that you're alive. And if you have an abusive and toxic partner, leave.
By your own logic, I could just say, well, not all men are going to do that.
But only men will do it.
But the exception doesn't make it doesn't even make sense because you're actually just wrong about that. But you have to understand, guys, when you're talking to somebody and when you're having a debate with somebody, if you make a statement and then they say, yeah, but not all, that is actually somebody who doesn't really understand basic logic and how to engage in a debate in a really basic way. So yeah, I'm not going to use that. But just to zoom in on what you said before, you are advocating that women are better off having children and breaking up their families. You are advocating for a single mother society. Go and look at Black America and see how it's going for them. Okay, go and look at the African Americans and see how it's going for them. There's an abundance of evidence for this. Kids from single mother households are even more likely to be gay. Okay, they're even more likely to be gay. Okay, there's a correlation there. They're making gays. Okay, so anyways, kids from single mother households, they're more likely to be violent criminals, gays. Okay, they're more likely to live in poverty and all of these things. You can look at African Americans. They had 25% single motherhood rate in the 1950s and the 60s. Or the 40s, sorry, and then now they're up to 75%. And look at those communities, how it's going. It's not good.
Yeah, but you have to understand, those are the African Americans. They're very violent people. Their parent partners are very violent. Lots of abuse. Now, people, listen to what Jake is saying. Jake is saying that I am saying, and he totally he refuted my point. I am saying that if you have an abusive partner that is physically hitting you every day, a toxic partner that is always verbally abusing you, or just sucking the energy out of you, which is not only bad for you, it is also bad for your kids. He's okay with a man coming and slapping you here and there a little bit in front of the kids. He's okay with kids seeing that trauma. He's okay with that, rather than you taking them out of that toxic environment. And that even not even physically, even the fighting, the bickering, the screaming, I watch a lot of serial killers and stuff, and a lot of these serial killers come from both parents' home. And the fact that if they were gay, like, do you understand being gay? Like, I don't get it. How you
I don't understand.
Being gay is a choice. No. I'm sorry, a man has a penis and it gets erected when it is attracted to something. So if it is not attracting, it's not getting up looking at a female, it is getting up with a male. You can't control that. There's no control over it, who you get sexually aroused by. I'm sure you have a preference in women. You might like white, beautiful, blonde hair, blue eyes women, right? You are only sexually aroused by them, whereas you're not aroused by a black woman, right? So now, should I force you to go sleep with the black woman because you're not aroused by it? Same thing with gays. You can't say that, oh, they're born gay and these women are turning them gay.
Okay.
That's such a stupid argument.
Let's hear
You
more
said they were
about
born
Jake's
gay.
sexual preferences. Do you like black women, Jake? Do they arouse you?
Look, they say the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. I say the blacker the berry, the less my kids look like me. So not necessarily. So I'm more into the Mediterranean sort of looking girls myself, actually. So like Italians, Greeks, Spanish, that sort of thing. So yeah, you were wrong about that. I don't like the blonde hair, blue eyes as much, although
I was just giving an example. Yeah.
I can deal with it if it comes my way. But anyways, Mahalij, I would love to know, what percentage of women do you think are actually being murdered by their husbands?
A huge percentage.
In the United States. What percentage?
I don't know. I don't know the number. I can
If
Google
you had to
it
give
and
it like a
tell you.
rough estimate, what would you say? Just a rough
I
estimate.
don't know. 60%.
So you think 60% of women in the United States are being murdered by their husbands?
Yeah, that's the last time I checked. That was the number. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to leave it at that for the chat to decipher.
Wait, to be clear, I think that Mahalij, you were saying, do I understand right? Just because I think there's a miscommunication, I could be wrong. I think you're saying that of the women who get murdered, 60% of the time it's their husband, not that like 60% of American women get murdered by their husband, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If you have 100 women and they were murdered, 60% of the time it is the person in house. Same thing with kids. When they are molested, is most of the time molestation is done by somebody that they know in their house or relatives. It's somebody that they know. It's 40% of these strangers that we need to worry about.
All right, but if you had 100 women who got married, just 100 random women getting married, how many of them do you think would get killed by their husbands?
I don't know. Even if one gets killed, that's too many.
But I would agree with you. But how many do you think it is per 100? How many? Do you think
I don't know.
killed?
I can't give
Per
you a
100
number
marriages.
on top
If you
of
had to
my
guess,
head.
though, I'm saying because you seem to have this idea that women are more unsafe getting married. You've said this, so you've advocated for women to not get married for this matter. So you must know.
I've
You must
never said that
know.
women shouldn't get married. If somebody wants to get married, I am no one to tell them not to get married. It's
You
their
said that
choice.
it's unsafe for them.
It is unsafe because in studies show, again, I'm going to tell you, studies show that 60%, are the ones that have been killed by their husband, family member, father, brother, uncle. It's the men of the family. Okay. Do you understand that or no?
So just bear with me here, okay? So just say out of 20 million, 10 women were murdered, okay? And 6 of them were by their husband. Just say that was the case. Would you still advocate, based upon those numbers, for women to not get married because of those 10?
First of all, I never advocated for women to not get married. It is a choice. Feminism doesn't say, oh, you shouldn't get married. I don't say it. Yeah, you shouldn't get married. I have never come across any feminist that's told me, oh, Molly, you should never get married. No. If you find somebody and you want to get married, you want to be a stay-at-home mom, no worries. Do ahead. Go ahead and do it. But the problem is with you guys. You want us to only do that and push that on us. Some women don't want to get married. Some women don't want to have kids. Some women want a career. That is a choice that we want, and we should have that choice, right? We shouldn't be forced to have kids. Imagine a woman that is forced to have kids. You think she's going to provide, she's going to take care of those kids because she was forced into that?
That was your prescription before. You said that there should be baby factories, not me. But anyways,
no, baby factories are the ones.
it's my turn to speak, Mahalish. You can actually
Baby
speak.
factories
You can
different.
speak next. I'm just going to say what I was going to say. The Violence Policy Center estimates that only 0.84 women out of every 100,000 who are married are murdered by their husband in the United States. 0.84 out of 100,000 in the United States. And you're advocating that it's such a danger that women should not get married.
It is a danger. No, I never said that women shouldn't get married. So don't
is what
keep
you
putting
said.
words in my mouth. No, I did not say that women should not get married. They have a choice if they want to get married. But yeah, you
no
have
shit.
more likely your husband will kill you.
So you're saying that it's better that women do get married and keep their families together. You're saying that the nuclear family is a good thing.
If you have a husband that is not beating you up and is contributing and is loving, yeah, no problem. But if you have an abusive partner that is going to kill you, toxic, then you should better off alone for you and for your child.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's somebody else debating here that's arguing that if a man is beating his wife and going to kill her, that she should stay with him. Maybe there's somebody else who's arguing for that. It's not me, and I don't know who. Maybe James. James, is that something that you're arguing for? I don't think I've heard you take that position.
No.
No, you are.
All
So
right, cool.
who has said that? I never took the position to say you shouldn't get married if the man was there, if you have a good man and he's taking care of you and everything. And there is good men out there. They don't talk in these talking points though, that you have been talking about though.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're much more likely to be abused if it's somebody who is not you're not married to. So if it's like a boyfriend or something like that. Yeah, you're much more likely to
That's
get
not the stats.
abused by a boyfriend. Yeah.
No. Well, even then, even if you're getting abused by a boyfriend, it's men, right?
Yeah, but I'm
You're
saying,
admitting to
I'm
the
saying that the
problem.
nuclear, no, I'm saying that the nuclear family, having a husband and children, is the safest place that a woman can be. You're arguing to dismantle that. So you're arguing to put women in perilous situations. And actually, ultimately, we've actually established here that you're arguing that Canada eventually becomes Pakistan. So all of these things that you're arguing for about women being in extremely unsafe situations where they can get stoned to death, Fatima can get stoned to death because she was SA'd by a guy, you're arguing to bring that to Canada. And I know that you think you're not directly arguing for it, but if the entailment of your argument, if the logical conclusion of your argument is that, then you're arguing for that, whether you like it or not. And actually, if I didn't know any better, and if I just had to have an objective assessment of you, I would think that you are potentially Pakistani intelligence, and you are potentially actually a subversive who is coming to Canada and who is actually subverting the Canadian political system to try and have all of your cousins from Pakistan coming in and marrying each other and coming into Canada and actually subverting the legal system and having it become Pakistan. And I'm actually suspicious now.
Oh my God, I love it when men can't answer my logical point. So they have to go on to character assassination. Well, thank you so much. Because you know what? So far, I was always being called the raw agent, the Jew agent. Now I'm an ISI agent. Thank you so much. I can't even go to Pakistan because as soon as I get on the plane, because I've committed so much blasphemy, I will be arrested. This is the thing. This guy will say anything. I am promoting stoning of women, to the extreme, without any evidence, without anything. Oh my God, just going to the extreme. This is the thing. When you give them a logical argument, all he can do is put tags on me. Oh, she's an ISI agent. She just wants to make Canada into Pakistan. No, I don't. No, I don't. You want to bring those Pakistani values. A woman should be in. This is the whole thing that the family nuclear woman is better at home. You're only made to have kids. Your only purpose is to serve men. That's what you're talking about. And that's what those Pakistani men talk about. And I don't want that in Canada. I want women to have a choice. You want to get married? Go ahead, get married. You want to be a single mother because he's abusive? That's your choice. If you want to have an education, have a career, that's also your choice. I believe in choices. You don't. You want all the women in a line just to listen to what you got to say. And I'm totally against that. And that is the Pakistan that I'm talking about. They want the same thing.
And that will be Canada. If you keep on going and voting the way that you're going, Canada will become Pakistan. But look, I will admit that I did mess up that in one sense, that I did, you shouldn't be putting the words Pakistan and intelligence in the same sentence. I understand that. But anyways, James, I think we've pretty much beaten this horse to death. I'm happy to get into some closings if you want to. And I think Mahalij doesn't have too much more time, so we should probably get into some super chats and stuff as well.
We should rock and roll into the next section. Would you guys like 2-minute closings to draw together the threads from this debate?
Sure.
Two sounds good? Let's do it. We'll go first with Mahalij, a.k.a. Molly. The floor is all yours for your 2-minute closing.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having this debate. Thanks, Jake, for taking all this time. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, there was a lot of things thrown at me that I totally don't agree with. If anybody was to go do a little research about what kind of ideas I want to bring into Canada, I do not want Canada to turn into a Pakistan. I want Pakistan to turn more like a Canada, right? I want secularism up there. We believe in those values. I was told that, oh, I'm against marriage. No, I'm not against marriage. I'm for choice. You want to get married? Yes, you can get married. Nobody's stopping you. You can be a stay-at-home mom, but also let the other woman that is working, give her the same respect. She should have the same respect, even if you are a prostitute, because prostitution is a very important business, right? And that stops a lot of men from going around and committing a lot of crime, and they have needs. So we shouldn't be just going around and, diminishing all those. And that's what I'm going to say, that society in 2025 is a lot better because we have feminism, because we treat women as human beings now. And some people have problem with that. And because women are actually exceeding and doing better than men, some men cannot handle it. They obviously are feeling left behind. So my whole suggestion would be that men need to catch up with us, because we are in 2025. Stop living in 1920, this dream that, oh, we're going to get the whole 1920s back. No, we're not going back. And besides from just blaming feminism, maybe it's time to look into other factors that are contributing into the male loneliness, the fact that there's so much hatred online for women, like threats and rape threats and, oh, we're going to kill you and all that. That's only going to make it worse, not better. And especially these manosphere men that are projecting. I never watched Thelma and Louise, but I bet you all these men that are there, they're only listening to propaganda, and they're only forming their opinions from propaganda, listening to men, all these manosphere men. I don't have to go listen to any feminist talk or anything like that. I didn't even prepare for this debate. I talk from my experience, what I have seen in life. And what I see in Canada. So that's what I would have liked to say. Thank you so much.
We'll kick it over to Jake for his 2 minutes as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming out, Mahalij. I appreciate it. You were definitely a good sport, and it was a fun debate. But you actually just did say that you didn't even prepare for the debate. You just basically went off your feelings, which is exactly why women should not vote. They should not be able to vote just off of their feelings. That's actually ridiculous. Nobody wants that. That's not a logical way to actually live your life. Therefore, her voting rights should be rescinded. Anyways, she says, and this is another thing, she actually can't logically think through her position. So she says to me that she doesn't advocate for any of these positions to bring Islam to Pakistan, and she would rather have Pakistan become more secular. Well, Pakistan isn't going to become more secular, and the reason why is because the women can't rise up and get their rights because, well, the men have a monopoly on force, and the women just aren't able to do that. But they're trapped in a dilemma that they actually can't get out of. And it's the same with the British feminists. They will say, well, we love these liberal values, we love these secular values, and we want to keep them here. However, the women will vote liberal. The liberals will bring in the immigrants in en masse. The women will advocate for open border policies, all of these empathetic policies, and they will say, we stand with these people. Now, you may not directly want this necessarily, but you're voting for the politicians and you're bringing about the societal conditions for this to actually happen. So therefore, you and all of your liberal friends and all of these feminists are bringing about the end of feminism. It is an ideology that inevitably eats itself because you don't have any kids. Most of you are reproductive dead ends, all of these feminists, and you bring in all of these third world immigrants that will eventually destroy the societies that you actually want to preserve. So therefore, it's not that you necessarily argue for it, but it's the logical entailment of your worldview. And this is why particularly with these sorts of like feminist women, they're so short-sighted that they can only see what's right in front of their face, and they don't look bigger picture, and they don't think about tradition, the things of the past that have actually worked, and they don't look at the future and the actual entailments of their worldview. And this is why they just get absolutely crushed in these debates time and time again. So with that, we can get into the next part.